Okay, so one guy has a thing on here saying, question to female followers: what are the things that you find most annoying about girl power characters and stories? How are they letting you, the target demographic, down? Well, for one, with my response here, I basically put down actual female strength displays differently from male strength. Having women with male vibrato rings false. The lack of actual friendship and teamwork from male and female characters sticks out to me as well. Which I could say, Anita Blake is a prime example of this. Anita Blake is female women power gone wrong. Um, Characters, when you're making different characters for different roles, have them work together to fill in the deficiencies of each other. Um, I'll even take Eliza and Dexter's balance into account. Dexter is very much gung ho in terms of offense, 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 but it takes a lot for Eliza to go on the offensive. Like, 'cause it's a different mindset. Women, to me, aren't going to be up in your face, directly confrontational, unless it's like the absolute last resort. Because I even wanted to showcase a little bit on Taifa that a lot of the women that are corrupted by Set in the house arena, they are pretty much female power gone wrong. Now, you'll get to see a bit more of that later, but I'm basically peeling back elements to just showcase, what to me as the writer, what is missing in female and male dynamic relationships, whether that's romantic or friendship. Unlike Anita Blake, who uses all her men as a wet rag, or as some sort of validation machine. Excuse me if my voice is a little bit off. I've been coughing like crazy because of all the allergies. Excuse me. Plus, a lot of stuff that has the big girl power angle. It isn't. It isn't set up the way it was with like the original Powerpuff Girls show. To use a visual example, or even some of the older style pulps, where Deja Thoris had more than enough agency. It's just that he set it up to where she would be a legitimate companion and teammate to John Carter, and they would each fill in each other's deficiencies, to make a working couple. They had their own separate interests, but a lot of their stuff aligned with each other, and they each brought out different aspects of each other, which a lot of stuff nowadays doesn't do that with the male and female characters, whether it's a friendship path or a romantic path. One person has to be the dominant person in the relationship, and that doesn't really work for me. Again, see Anita Blake and that whole train wreck to how not to do male and female relationships. Ooh boy. But that's a whole other pickle. Plus, I think female heroism arcs are inherently different from male heroism arcs. Can some aspects overlap? Yes. But psychology, or like the actual mental breakdown of it'll play out differently for men and it'll play out differently for women. Because we got different types of chemicals bouncing around in our brains. Plus, often, girl power episodes basically like, oh, if you criticize this, then you're an ism or something. That's the reason why stuff like, say, what Ripley went through resonates differently than, say, what would be a good counterexample to say what the core girl went through. It felt like Ripley earned her heroic status, and you didn't even see like her whole life on screen. To me, the overall difference, you could just showcase very key points in a character's setup, and then show how that they overcome whatever those key points are. You can just sprinkle the evidence on there. Now, you could do this differently with books, because books can go everywhere, versus movies, which have to contain like a plot within like 2 hours usually, beginning, middle, and end. So some stuff is showcased differently from a book to a movie, at least, in my honest opinion. But yeah, the whole girl power thing feels like to me like they're uplifting the main female character at the expense of everyone else. Which a decent example of that is the Korra show, where to me a lot of the side characters actually had mini arcs, and even though Korra kind of stayed the same, I don't think she's a good example of a flat arc character, because her side cast grew, but they didn't grow from Korra's example. Kind of like how Superman's side cast, grows through his example. With Korra, that just didn't happen. Even it just feels forced in a way where it's like, again, female characters aren't going to react exactly in the same way as male characters would in the same circumstances. A good example of this is even in Honor Harrington. Even though Honor herself is pretty much a warrior, what showcases the difference in how she handles things compared to how guys would handle it is probably the Grayson arc, all the way leading up to when she gets invested as a stedholder. And the overall loyalty of her personal guard, honestly, it's because Weber has a better grasp of what women have as a particular strength set versus what guys have, and it's all over Grayson's society. Now, granted, they get pulled into more modern way of thinking in certain areas, but that overall core of Grayson's society stays pretty dynamic in terms of what the male strength is and what the female strength is, and their overall social culture clash with the Manticoran element and everybody else. Yeah, does some of that eventually fade a little bit? Yeah, but you'll notice that in the series, Honor starts taking on a little bit more of a Grayson mentality when it comes to some things. So, again, male and female characters should bring different dynamics to the table. Don't just have a female character be copied over with male bravado and sarcasm. It just doesn't come off the same. Because most women aren't very much directly confrontational. Unless they're really, really pushed to it, which I had an example of that in an earlier book at Area 51 with Gino confronting X-Mill directly, but you only get part of the confrontation because Eliza herself can't hear much of what's being said at the time. It's just another element to where I want to showcase certain kinds of dynamics later on in the series, and then when you go back to look at earlier books, you're like, oh, kind of like there's another bit of the onion revealed. Honestly, at this point, my whole take on the show Don't Tell is really going to come down to this. If it's a really important event in a character's life that I think will showcase their overall outlook on life, then I'll probably put it in the story. I don't want to put stuff in, bog down everything with emotional showing under the sun everywhere, because again, I just don't got time for that anymore. So the days of me diving into tons of purple prose type stuff, a la Rhapsody and Elizabeth Hayden's things, I would say if you're going to read that series, read her YA series, because she gets to the point a lot quicker of the two. But, you know what? I would say even the Rhapsody series would showcase the difference between some female strengths versus male strengths, but Rhapsody herself does have some tendencies to where the writer did tie into all the good guys love her to no end. I wanted to make sure I avoided that with Uplift Protocol. That's why there are going to be more characters besides Anna that will, honestly butt heads with Eliza on things, or be like, we're gonna go things through a different route. I'm even gonna have that with Gwen a bit. Not that Anna truly hates Eliza. She was fearful of Eliza for most of her life because she kept seeing unfiltered, you know, like weave visions of a dead universe that never really took place in. But it's kind of like the weave will showcase a lot of different aborted timelines to its speakers, because it wants to avoid having those timelines become a reality. Kind of like XYZ, which path are they going to take? If they go down this path, it'll lead to like a ruin scenario, that sort of thing. But yeah, like, and I get it. A lot of people, the reason why they go through a lot of these hoops is they don't want to be accused of being like Mary Sue or air quote boring like Superman. Well, here's my 2 cents. I don't find Batman too engaging. Honestly, the only time I really liked the character in the animated Justice League stuff is when he was with other characters to play off as. Again, it's just personal preference, but I think a lot of times with writing, people will get caught up in too many certain kinds of you must do this guidelines to avoid X, Y, or Z, when really all you gotta do is just read stuff you like and then try to incorporate it into your own work. That's just how I see it. Some other people are saying, like how femininity is portrayed as a weakness. It's just a difference. Masculine traits will display differently from feminine traits. A lot of the old pulps understood this, and even in the X-1 stuff that I'm listening to in the car ever so often, the female characters often galvanize the guys to act even more heroic than they would otherwise be. They force them to basically take up the mantle and like be a hero, damn it. And in a way, that's also giving both characters a purpose. The purpose doesn't always have to be I'm on the front lines taking all the hits. Sometimes there's just as equal value in being in a support role. Not all the guy characters are going to be the alpha leading things. There's I'm going to try to showcase later, especially through the dynamics with the Allfather, because I've decided to pick each villain to be an arch nemesis of one of the heroes. So for me, it's going to be Dexter versus the Allfather in terms of like, here is a masculine portrayal that is selfish versus a selfless masculine hero. And again, like I said, like all this stuff is going to come into play. I just go with my onion format, and stuff will get revealed in bits and pieces, so that way people still have a reason to keep reading. Yeah, and the idea that the modern take of female empowerment has to be synonymous. Yay, me can't read. With the idea of stepping in on people that get in your way and dumbing down men to these mindless, mentally retarded drones for women to pick apart when they're bored. Again, that's Anita Blake. If you ever want an example of how not to write anything, a certain point in the Anita Blake series, really, the first few books are fine. They're fun popcorn little things, but when most people will rag on the series, they pretty much mean a lot of stuff, like after book 6 especially. It's like you're turning all these characters into validation pieces. They're not even characters anymore. They're just there to worship the ground the character walks on. Because again, like there's a lot of elements of the whole Mary Sue, Marty Stu thing that can be broken apart, and like if your character displays some elements of it, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are a Mary Sue or Marty Stu or whatever. It's just everybody has a different threshold of what that means. Yeah. So again, like with anything else, just keep on going. Incorporate what you want into your writing. But let's see. Oh, what else is there? Oh, yes. Basically, anger being their prevalent trait. Having to rag on everybody to feel validated. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, the whole inherent arrogance factor. It's a very fine line, at least in my opinion, to have a character that's arrogant, but if that's all there is to them, then you're going to find it falls flat with people, because there's only so much arrogance a person can really take, you know? You have to have some sort of virtuous, humbling qualities about the character as well, which a lot of these female empowerment characters, they're pretty much arrogant 24/7. And the arrogance is not earned because they don't actually have like the skills to back it up, you know. I mean, even though I gloss over training montage stuff, I usually just use time skips to showcase, like, yes, you know, all these characters are going to learn stuff in the background and display that new knowledge later. But I just don't feel like going like Karate Kid on everything, where it's like, Daniel-san, wax on, wax off. It's like, I know it's happening in the background. I just want books and everything else to get to the more pertinent points in that character's arc or story or life or events, you know. I mean, and this is more for visual mediums, but the fact that the Steven Universe crap has been made fairly popular in certain circles does a disservice to female characters, because physically, men and women look different. I don't like the idea of a female character having like no distinct impression that they are legitimately female. It's like, not everybody's going to be a stick thin kind of caricature of that Pearl lady from Steven Universe. It's like, it's just not going to happen. And not all of them are going to be gargantuan elephant-sized, you know, lumbering rolls of fat either. Let me tell you, it's annoying to be 300 pounds. Don't do it. Don't do it. In fact, even though it's a dead horse already for me, look to Babylon 5 for a decent portrayal of different kinds of feminine characters that, you know, are powerful enough in their own right in different ways. They're equal yet opposite to their male counterparts in different ways. So, that's about it for today, everybody. Have a good day.